Gentlemen, we have a new quorum of 81 since we have 161 parties that have their credentials accepted, and we're about 10 away from quorum. Thank you. I have a few housekeeping announcements to make. First of all, the error to be corrected in what I said just earlier. So we have 161 parties registered to attend this meeting, which brings the quorum of each session up to 81, which we have now reached. And as for the credentials, you will be able to see the app to see how many credentials that have been accepted, which is just over 140. I would like to make an announcement with regard to the media. We have received several complaints from parties on the media. I would like to remind you that media is allowed to film and move around in the committee rooms during the first 10 minutes of the session. After 10 minutes, they must be in the media section, which is between where the desks end and where the chairs start. There is a media section. In that section, photographing or recording of any kind is not allowed after the first 10 minutes of each session. This non-recording or photographing also applies to all of the participants, delegates, observers included. Nothing after the first 10 minutes, please. There is one exception. We have a photographer from the Environment Negotiations Bulletin, ENB, who has been hired by the host country, and he has been exceptionally allowed to take photographs throughout the session. So you will see one photographer who might be moving in either committee 1 or 2 rooms to take photographs. He has clearly marked on his name tag the badge that says ENB. However, needless to say that individuals have the full right to refuse to be photographed. So in this case, please indicate to the ENB photographer that you wish not to be photographed. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. We will start the morning session. Thank you for the constructive discussions yesterday. We are a bit behind time, so I do hope that everyone continue to keep their intervention short so that we can finish today's agenda and yesterday's afternoon agenda. So today I will start with 76.1. Implementation of Resolution Conference 1010 on trade in elephant specimens. There are quite a number of recommendations in the document, and I will be doing it together with 76.2 and 76.3 because there are some overlapping. So please do get ready the documents. So first one, I will go through the first recommendation, 56a, to note the information contained in the present document. I'd like to open the floor for any comments. This is just to note the information contained in the present document. We are looking at 76.1, recommendations 56a. Okay, I will now move to 56b. Renew decisions 18.117, Ref COP 19, 18.118, and 18.119, Ref COP 19, on closure of domestic ivory markets as contained in Annex 1 to the present document. I would like to propose that we discuss this recommendation together with the recommendations contained in document 76.2 later on. So I repeat again, for 56B on renewal of decisions, 18.117, 118, and 119 on closure of domestic ivory markets, I would like to discuss that with 76.2 later on. Okay, so now I will move to 56c, document 76.1. We're still at European Union. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm speaking on behalf of the EU and its member states, and thank you to the Secretariat for preparing the report. While we can support most of the recommendations as presented in the document, however, as noted during Standing Committee 78, and in Recommendation I to this document, there are significant budget shortfalls for ETIS and reduced budget allocation for MIC. Therefore, we cannot support Recommendation C to delete decisions 19.36 and 19.37 and the revision of decision 19.35. We would rather see the decisions renewed to further explore avenues of consistent funding for MIC and ETIS. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Before I give the floor again, I just want to remind parties I am at document 76.1, 56 little c. Delete decisions 19.36 and 19.37 and revise 13.35. Okay, I give the floor to United Kingdom.
Thank you, Chair. We'd just like to say we support the EU's comments that decisions 19.36 and 19.37 should also be renewed given the budget shortfalls of the ETIS programme. Thank you.
I open the floor to observer organizations and non-parties. WWF, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. WWF broadly supports the draft decisions detailed in 76.1, but as a donor to the ETIS programme, we're alarmed that there are no draft decisions encouraging parties and donor organisations to contribute funds to that programme and would align with the interventions of the EU and UK. ETIS represents a vital tool to enable parties to understand and address issues around ivory trafficking and is integral to their implementation of Resolution 1010 and fundamental to the NIAP process. Despite its important role, ETIS faces an uncertain financial future, and we note with concern that the high priority recommendations 17 and 18 in the ETIS review document that relate to the sustainability of the ETIS programme remain only partially implemented. The recommendations in document 76.1 include the proposal to delete decisions 19.36 and 19.37 relating to funding. We strongly endorse, therefore, the proposal of the EU and the UK to retain those decisions with the addition of explicit reference to ETIS. Chair, we urge parties to consider the pressing need for sustainable funding for ETIS to ensure that ETIS, a core CITES programme that has served parties for nearly 3 decades, can continue to play this critical role. Thank you, Chair.
Malaysia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Malaysia thanks the Secretariat for the comprehensive report. In this regard, Malaysia would like to support the revision of Decision 19.35 on financial and operational sustainability of the MIC and ETIS programs, in particular to extend funding support to ASEAN region and the deletion of the Decision 19.36 and 19.37. Thank you, Chair.
European Union, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just for clarity's sake, the EU would also support the inclusion of ETIS if the decisions are renewed to ensure a consistent call for funding. Thank you.
Kenya, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Kenya will want to align with the comments from the EU, UK to renew the decision that will include continued support for MIC and ETIS programs, taking cognizance that the analytical results from these programs enables parties to make critical decisions that are linked to trade, and we really are against deleting the decisions as referenced. Thank you, Madam Chair.
India, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. India wishes to thank the Secretariat and the Standing Committee for the document. India maintains a complete ban on domestic ivory trade and ivory carrying industry under Wildlife Protection Act 1972 and strongly support global measures for the closure of all domestic ivory markets in the line with Resolution Confirm 10.10 Rev CoP20. On live Asian elephants, India has put in place strict national regulations governing possessions, transfer, and welfare. Though the Project Elephant, India has also initiated a DNA profiling and registration system for captive elephants. India supports global traceability measure. At the same time, also is to emphasize that range state must retain flexibility to implement national level systems suited to their context rather than being subject to a uniform international mechanism. India does not maintain ivory stockpiles as a seizures and secured as evidence during court proceedings and subsequently it is destroyed. India supports mandatory reporting and disposal mechanism for countries holding ivory stockpiles to prevent leakage into legal trade. India continues to regularly contribute MIC data and participate in ETIS process. India supports the running monitoring system and calls for capacity building and financial assistance from donors to ensure effective participation of foreign state. On sustainability, India supports the establishment of dedicated international funding mechanism for the continued functioning of MIC and ETIS, while encouraging synergies with UN agencies such as UNODC to strengthen enforcement and curb illegal wildlife trade. India reaffirms its status as a responsible and compliant foreign state with a robust legal framework and conservation programs, and urges stronger global cooperation against ivory trade alongside context-specific approaches to captive elephant management. Thank you, Madam Chair.
India, I'm only dealing with 56C now. So for the Asian elephants, we'll come to that in recommendation L. So you can take the intervention then. But I would like to clarify, do you have any views for 56C then?
No.
Israel, you have the floor.
Yes, on this particular issue, we support Kenya and the EU and others in the importance of maintaining the proper funding. We would come back when we get down to other issues in the recommendations on other. Thank you, Chair.
United States of America, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. The United States supports the comments made by the EU and the UK in regard to retaining those decisions.
Senegal, you have the floor.
Merci Madame la Présidente. Le Sénégal prend juste la parole pour appuyer le Kenya, l'Union européenne et les États-Unis comme l'Israël. C'est la question. Merci.
Thank you everyone for your clear interventions. I see that there is agreement to renew the decision. Okay, I'll just give the floor to the last two parties for, okay, Niger. I'll close the speaker list. So Niger, please.
Ok, merci Madame la Présidente. Je vais aller dans le même sens que le Sénégal, le Kenya et les États-Unis. Merci.
Thank you, everyone. So I was just saying that I see agreement to renew the decision, so I will read out now. So the committee agreed to renew decision 19.36 and 19.37 with a specific reference to ETIS to be included in 19.36 and to revise decision 19.35 as contained in Annex 4 to the document. I repeat again. The committee agreed to renew decision 19.36 and 19.37 with a specific reference to ETIS to be included in 19.36 and to revise decision 19.35 as contained in Annex 4 to the document. European Union, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The EU could not support the revision of 19.35. We would see that the decision is renewed without any revision. Thank you.
European Union, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to be perfectly clear, and apologies for all the interventions, we would not support the deletion of the sentence "and the Secretariat in the implementation of Decision 19.36. We would like to keep that in Decision 19.35. Thank you.
Noted, thank you. So I will read out again on what we are agreeing. The committee agreed to renew Decision 19.35, 19.36, and 19.37 with a specific reference to ETIS to be included in 19.36. I repeat again. The committee agreed to renew Decision 19.35, 19.36, and 19.37 with a specific reference to ETIS to be included in 19.36. United States of America, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Just a question regarding the deletion of the Secretariat on the implementation of Decision 19.36. Is that also being retained in the renewal of 19.35?
So based on what I just read is that 19.35 will be renewed, which means that the revision will not be taken. So the sentence will remain. Is it okay? Thank you. Okay, so we have completed 15C. Okay, so now we will move to document 76.1, recommendations 56D, little d, 56 little d. Adopt the amendments to Resolution Conference 1010, RevCop 19 on trade in elephant specimens contained in Annex 2 to the present document. So for 56D, the amendments to the Resolution Conference 1010 is similar to the amendments proposed in document 76.3, Annex 1. So I would like to discuss here, but they are exactly the same. So if we if we adopt 56D, we will be adopting 76.3 Annex 1 amendment as well. So I repeat again, so for document 76.1, 56D, the amendments to the resolution in Annex 2 is the same as the amendment in document 76.3, Annex 1. So if we adopt this amendment now, we will adopt the 76.3 as well. Israel, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. On this agenda item, looking at changes to Resolution 1010, we would highlight some other aspect of this document, 76.1, which discusses changes needed in 1010 that don't appear anywhere else in the recommendations. Specifically, I'm speaking about the whole Part 6 of document 76.1, which discusses the standing committees dealing with decisions that were related to trade in Mammoth Ivory and came out with recommendations. And we would like to include the recommendation of the standing committee here in this part where there's a small change to Resolution 1010. If we look back at paragraph 55, little c of this document, it gives a summary of the issue of mammoth trade. As you will recall, at COP18, Israel proposed the woolly mammoth to be included in Appendix 2 as a means of preventing laundering of mammoth ivory in terms of its mammoth ivory is being laundered instead of elephant ivory. So this was a study that was done, directed to the Standing Committee, and in the end, there were recommendations by the Standing Committee. So paragraph 55C is a small sentence that should be included into Resolution 1010, and basically taking the language right from 55CC, we would propose that to be added somewhere into Resolution 1010, maybe after paragraph 18 of the resolution, and it would read, as it is in 55C, encourages parties exporting and importing mammoth ivory to strictly apply the domestic regulatory measures they have in place for trade in these specimens. So it's taking the results of the Standing Committee study and actually making them a proper resolution to the parties for long term. In terms of the rest of the changes to 1010 as they are proposed in the document, 76 point, I think it's 3, then we support these changes as they appear in Annex 2. Thank you, Chair.
Israel, can I request that for the Mammoth Ivory, can you raise your intervention again when we come to recommendation M? So I noted that you support 56D, the amendments to Resolution Conference 1010. Thank you. Any more views from the floor? I do not see any. If any of you European Union, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm speaking on behalf of the EU and its member states. We could not support the inclusion proposed by Israel regarding mammoth in the amendments to ResConf 1010. Thank you.
Burkina Faso, you have the floor.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Le Burkina Faso soutient les recommandations de la 56.D. Merci.
Switzerland, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We oppose the changes proposed by Israel as the EU is doing it. Thank you.
Okay, I see support for adoption to the amendments to Conference 1010 as contained in Annex 2. So the committee agree to adopt the amendments to Resolution Conference 1010 on trade in elephant specimens contained in Annex 2 to the present document. Thank you, everyone. So we'll move on. Now we move to 76.1, 56E. Adopt the draft decisions on management of stockpiles contained in Annex 3 to the present document. 56E. Draft decisions on management of stockpiles. I open the floor to parties. Kenya, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We support the adoption of the revision done in E. Thank you.
Burkina Faso, you have the floor.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Le Burkina Faso aussi est favorable à l'adoption de la recommandation 56.E, tout comme le Kenya. Merci.
Mali, you have the floor.
Merci bien, Madame la Présidente. Comme l'a dit le Sénégal, le Kenya le Niger, le Mali aussi se positionnent pour soutenir cette partie que nous sommes en train de discuter. Merci bien, Madame la Présidente.
Benin, you have the floor.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Le Bénin aussi joint sa voix au Mali pour soutenir cette proposition. Merci.
Nigeria, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Nigeria is supporting this proposal. Thank you.
I open the floor to observer organizations and non-parties. Malaysia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We would like to support the proposal.
Center for Biological Diversity, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This intervention is on behalf of 16 organizations. We support the renewal of these decisions, but we also encourage parties to include the amendments in document 76.3. We welcome document 76.3 because it fills critical gaps to ensure Ivory stockpile reporting and monitoring by CITES parties. Based on ETIS data and the NIAP process, it is apparent that many CITES parties possess Ivory stockpiles but are not reporting as envisioned by Resolution 1010. Reporting and monitoring of stockpiles is vital for halting theft and leakage of ivory into illegal trade, and ultimately will aid our efforts to combat wildlife crime. We urge party support for these important decisions and encourage robust reporting and monitoring of ivory by all parties.
Thank you. I conclude that the committee agree to adopt the draft decisions on management of stockpiles contained in Annex 3 to the present document. So I just repeat again. So the committee agree to the draft decisions on management of stockpiles contained in Annex 3 to the present document. Thank you. For recommendation 56F and G, they are related to 76.4, they are overlaps, they are similar. 76.3. Yeah, 76.3, so I would like to discuss that later on as well together with 76.3. So for 56F and G in 76.1, I will take it together later on with 76.3. Okay, so now we will move to 56H. Note the new project funded by the European Union that will include a feasibility study and voluntary testing of data collection and reporting methods to monitor illegal killing for other CITES-listed species in Africa, and future funding from the European Union will be contingent on the inclusion of data collection and reporting on multiple species. So we are looking at 76.1, 56H. I open the floor to parties. Okay, so we note the committee note the new project funded by the European Union. So H is completed. So now we move to I, J, and K. Now I will move to 56I. Note the funding needs for ETIS as indicated by traffic and the reduced budget allocated to the MIC component under the new project funded by the European Union, which will limit the MIC program ability to maintain the same level of support to MIC sites as in previous years. So we are looking at 56I. I open the floor to parties, observer organizations, and non-parties. Okay, I see no requests from the floor. So the committee noted. Next is 56J. Note the list of key elements to be considered regarding registering, marking, and tracing systems for captive Asian elephants endorsed by the Standing Committee as presented in Annex 5 to the present document. We are looking at 56J. I open the floor to parties, observer organizations, and non-parties. I see no requests from the floor, so the committee noted 56J. Now we move to 56K. Adopt draft decision 28A and revised decision 18.226, Ref CoP20, on trade in Asian elephants as contained in Annex 6 to the present document. We're looking at 56K in document 76.1. I open the floor for parties. India, can I invite you to repeat your intervention earlier on, which was related to this draft decision? Senegal, you have the floor.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Concernant l'Asie, concernant l'annexe 6 et les décisions relatives à l'éléphant d'Asie, nous constatons que Mike Asie rencontre des difficultés et à cet égard, nous craignons que la compréhension du commerce illicite des éléphants d'Asie ne soit pas compromise si les obligations de modification actuelles prévues par les décisions sont supprimées. Nous recommandons donc que les points 18.226e et 19.107 et 19.108 ne soient pas modifiés, supprimés autant pour moi, mais modifiés au besoin afin que les parties puissent continuer à suivre la mise en œuvre des enquêtes et le commerce illicite et l'application de la législation relative à cette espèce. Merci.
Nigeria, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Nigeria supports the renewal of paragraph A of decision 18.226 Ref CoP19 and the adoption of draft decision 20.AA contained in Annex 6 of this document. However, given the consistently low reporting rates by parties involved in the trade of Asian elephants and their parts and derivatives regarding the implementation of the decision 18.226 Ref CoP19, we recommend that paragraph E of the decision as well as the decisions 19.107 and 19.108 also be renewed. This will help ensure the achievement of these decisions' objectives, which aim to improve our understanding of the status of illegal trade and the threats posed to Asian elephants populations, thereby supporting more effective policy and enforcement measures. Thank you, Chair.
United Kingdom, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. We just want to come in to support the proposals made by Senegal and Nigeria to also renew Part E and 19.107 and 19.108 to ensure there's some reporting back. Thank you.
Malaysia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Malaysia welcomes the practical approach endorsed by the Standing Committee. The list of key elements in Annex 5 provides a valuable and flexible guideline for range states like Malaysia to enhance our national registration system. We also support the proposed decision 20.AA on training for identification and forensic capacity, which addresses a direct need on the ground for our enforcement officers. Thank you, Chair.
Benin, you have the floor.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Le Bénin soutient aussi l'adoption de la décision 20AA et souhaite ou bien propose aussi le renouvellement du paragraphe A de la décision révisée 18.226, ainsi que l'ont fait déjà le Sénégal et le Nigeria. Merci.
India, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. India wishes to thank the Secretariat and Standing Committee for the document. India maintains a complete ban on domestic ivory trade and ivory carving industry under Wildlife Protection Act of India. On live Asian elephant, India has put in place a strict national regulation governing possession, transfer, and welfare. Through the Project Elephant, India has also initiated the DNA profiling and registration system for captive elephant. India supports the global traceability measure. At the same time, also wish to emphasize that a range state must retain flexibility to implement the national level system. India does not maintain ivory stockpile, as the seizures are secured as evidence during the court proceeding and subsequently destroyed. India supports the mandatory reporting and disposal mechanism for countries holding ivory stockpile to prevent leakage into illegal trade. India continues to regularly contribute MIC data and participate in ETIS process. On sustainability, India supports the establishment of dedicated international funding mechanism for the continued functioning of the MIC and ETIS. India reaffirms its status as a responsible and complement range state with a robust legal framework and conservation program, and urge stronger global cooperation against ivory trade alongside of context-specific approaches to captive elephant management. Thank you, Chair.
Kenya, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Kenya will wish to align with the comments from Senegal, Nigeria, and the UK, and agrees with the adoption of K, and also renewing the decisions 19.107 and 19.108 on trade in Asian elephants. The two decisions should not be deleted to enable parties get the required reporting. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Niger, you have the floor.
Merci Madame la Présidente. En tout cas, nous soutenons les propositions donc, du Sénégal, du Nigeria, le Bénin et le Kenya. Merci.
Mali, you have the floor.
Merci bien, Madame la Présidente. Comme nos prédécesseurs qui viennent d'être cités par le Niger, le Mali adhère au soutien de cette proposition. Et comme vous l'avez dit, nous sommes aussi prêts à être brefs dans les interventions. Merci, Madame.
Okay, I do see support overall for the draft decision, so I will close the speaker list and then I will come back again with the decision. Comoros, you have the floor.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Comme vous la souhaitez d'être bref, les Comores soutiennent la proposition du Sénégal et les autres pays tels que le Kenya et le Nigeria. Merci beaucoup.
Okay, so from what I heard from the floor, there was agreement for draft decision 20AA for 18.226 to retain E, little e, 18.226 little e to retain at the request of the Secretariat, provide information on the implementation of this decision for reporting by the Secretariat to the Standing Committee. So the committee agreed to adopt draft decision 20AA, and for decision 18.226, we will retain E, little e, in 18.226. United States of America, you have the floor.
My apologies, Chair, for coming in late. Just want to make a suggestion that if we're retaining E and we have the A from Doc 18, Decision 18.226, is it possible to have the Secretariat sort of report on that implementation of that decision in 20AA so that the Standing Committee can have a report on the implementation of those decisions? So like putting in a little c in 20AA to have the Secretariat report on the implementation of 28.226 to the Standing Committee. Thank you.
Okay, I will read again. So the committee agree on the draft decision 20AA with an additional paragraph C for Secretariat to report on draft decision A, 18.226A and B. Oh no, sorry, on A and B. Okay, I'll repeat again. The committee agree on draft decision 20AA with an additional paragraph C for Secretariat to report on A and B, and revised decision 18.226, Ref CoP20 on trade in Asian elephants, as contained in Annex C to the present document, with the retention of paragraph E. I repeat again, in case you didn't get it. So the committee agree on draft decision 20AA with an additional paragraph C for Secretariat to report on A and B, and revise decision 18.226 on trade in Asian elephants as contained in Annex 6 to the present document, with the retention of paragraph E. Togo, you have the floor.
Beaucoup, Madame la Présidente. Le Togo soutient la proposition des États-Unis pour prévoir un paragraphe C dans la décision 20AA. Je vous remercie.
Thank you. So I will close this now and I'll move on. Thank you. So now we move to item 56L of document 76.1. 56L on deleting decisions 19.107 and 108 on trade in Asian elephants. So I did hear from the floor previously that there was call to renew the decisions. So I'd just like to hear more views. So I am at 56L delete decisions 19.107 and 108 on trade in Asian elephants. So like I said, I did hear calls to renew. Okay, so my decision for 56L will be to renew decisions 19.107 and 19.108 on trade in Asian elephants, noting that there needs to be updating of cross-referencing related to standing committee meetings. Any comments? Okay, I do not see any requests from the floor. So the committee accepts the renewal for 19.107 and 108. Thank you. Okay, now I move to 76.1, 56M. I'm at 56M. Delete decisions 19.102 and 19.103 on trade in Mammoth Ivory. So I did hear just now on the floor from Israel to amend 10.10 to include Mammoth Ivory, but I also heard a number of parties that actually oppose to Israel's proposal. I will open the floor. Israel, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you, Chair. First of all, we would say that we support the recommendation in M to delete the decisions as we feel that they've been completed. Those decisions asked the Secretariat to conduct a study on whether the trade in mammoth ivory impacts illegal trade in elephant ivory, and that study was done, and it was reported to Standing Committee, and Standing Committee did a analysis of this study, and that is what is reported in paragraph 55 of the present document. As we stated a little earlier, we would encourage the COP to take the results of the Standing Committee's discussion of this issue and to include it, and the conclusion of the Standing Committee is included in 55B, encouraging the parties to apply strict regulatory measures. And I can't see what could possibly be controversial about asking parties to apply strict regulatory measures that are in place. So we would hope parties can support the Standing Committee's final decision. Thank you.
Australia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Australia can't support Israel's suggestion. We're talking about a non-CITES listed species, and I'm looking at the Standing Committee's recommendation here, and encourages parties to strictly apply the domestic regulatory measures they have in place for trade in mammoths. So I think it's really, we're just creeping past the edge of the mandate of the convention. Thank you.
Canada, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. To be brief, Canada aligns with the views of Australia. Thank you.
I open the floor to non-parties and observer organizations. European Union, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll keep it brief. We will align with the views expressed by Australia and Canada. Thank you.
India, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. As per the Wildlife Protection Act of India, the possession and the trade in ivory is completely banned. Thank you.
Okay, I will conclude on this. So the committee agreed to delete decisions 19.102 and 19.103 on trade in mammoth ivory. So I just repeat again. So for 56M, the committee agreed to delete decisions 19.102 and 19.103. I will move on because I did not hear support for Israel's proposal. So I will close. Oh no, I will not close it because I still have to go back to the other items. But I will close on 56M. Thank you. I now look at Agenda 76.2, which was submitted by Burkina Faso, Ethiopia, Niger, and Senegal. Can I ask one of the country to introduce the document, please? Thank you. Can I just ask again if any of the proponents would like to introduce the document? Burkina Faso, Ethiopia, Niger, and Senegal. Burkina Faso, you have the floor.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Le Burkina Faso est co-auteur du document 76.2. Pour notre pays, il est clair que tout marché intérieur de l'ivoire présente et pourrait contribuer au braconnage et au commerce illégal. Le DOC 76.2 continue le travail que la conférence des parties a débuté et il y a maintenant plus de 10 ans, en recommandant la fermeture des marchés intérieurs d'Ivoire. Nous saluons les grands progrès accomplis et les mesures prises par beaucoup de pays pour fermer leurs marchés nationaux de l'ivoire. Grâce à ces efforts collectifs, la différence se fait sentir pour nos éléphants. Cela étant, nous estimons qu'il reste encore quelques efforts à consentir, car certains pays, dont le Japon notamment, n'ont pas encore fermé leur marché. Or, l'analyse des dernières données ETIS figurant dans le doc 76.2 donne des informations qui permettent raisonnablement de conclure qu'il existe un risque non négligeable qu'il pourrait contribuer au braconnage et au commerce illégal. Madame la Présidente, les projets de décision figurant à l'annexe 2 du doc 76.2 offrent aux pays concernés ainsi qu'au secrétariat l'opportunité de prendre des mesures supplémentaires et d'accomplir les derniers efforts indispensables pour réduire ces risques. Il en va de la survie de nos éléphants, toujours gravement menacés par le braconnage et le commerce illégal de l'ivoire. Nous encourageons donc les parties à soutenir l'adoption de ces nouvelles décisions à l'intention du secrétariat et des parties concernées. Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you. So now I will open both documents. So I'll come back. So please look at document 76.1, Annex 1, which also contains draft decisions that the Standing Committee recommended to be renewed. And then look at 76.2, Annex 1, which contains the draft decisions revised by Burkina Faso, Ethiopia, Niger, and Senegal. You also find in Annex 2 of the same document decisions directed to selected parties. So we'll be discussing both documents together. And now I open the floor. Thank you. And also please specify which document you're referring to and which edits. Thank you. Senegal, you have the floor.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Le Sénégal prend la parole à la suite du Burkina en tant que pays co-auteur de le document 76.2 sur la fermeture des marchés locaux d'Ivoire. Nous n'avons pas l'intention ici de créer un incident diplomatique en citant des pays, mais je crois qu'un stock qui finit jamais, ça veut dire implicitement qu'il est alimenté par le braconnage. Parce que moi, pour ma petite expérience, j'ai fait 15 ans de COP, 5 COP, donc je suis à 15 ans de vie CITES. Mais comment un marché peut rester là encore qu'il finit jamais? Je crois que si le marché ne finit pas, c'est qu'il est alimenté par le braconnage. Ça, c'est un. Deuxièmement, nous n'avons pas aussi tous les équipements pour pouvoir faire des contrôles et savoir de datation dans quelle année ce produit est arrivé sur le marché. Je crois que nous demandons aux parties vraiment d'accepter que cette question ne peut pas faire l'objet ne peut pas être occultée. Ça fait des années qu'on en tourne, on parle autour. Il faut fermer vraiment les marchés d'ivoire locaux parce qu'ils sont en relation directe avec le braconnage. Merci.
Japan, you have the floor.
Right. Thank you, Madam Chair. This is about 76.2 on Annex 2 in particular, obviously. And for the objective of elephant conservation, Japan has been working very hard with the international community, including through voluntary contribution to the MIC program over many years, strict measures to control ivory trade, and filing reports to make clear that our domestic ivory market does not contribute to poaching or illegal trade. Now, on the Annex 2 of this particular item, 76.2, which is directed to Japan, Japan wants to point out two serious concerns. First, the CITES mandate is to regulate international trade. And the draft calling for restrictions on domestic trade clearly goes beyond this mandate. The reason the proponents had to use the term invite in the proposed text is because they already know and recognize this serious problem. Second, the resolution CoP10.10 stipulates that any assessment of illegal trade should be based on this scientific and objective ETIS reports. However, this draft decision is not based on the ETIS reports. Senegal even said, talked about implication, meaning that it is heavily biased with no objective data at all to support it. With these serious flaws, the draft decision is totally inappropriate, and in order to protect the integrity of the convention from the baseless argument, Japan urges the proponents to withdraw this item immediately, according to the rule 22.4 of the Rules of Procedure. If the proponents chose not to do so, continuing discussion on this item would go against the spirit of the CITES, and we can never accept any argument that compromises the values of the convention. Japan is not included in the NIAP process. The ETIS reports do not recognize Japan as a country of concern, and Japan will continue to contribute to elephant conservation in accordance with the agreement and the spirit of the convention. Lastly, for the sake of convenience, Japan wants to remind the parties that recommendation of 2016 only applies to the domestic markets that are contributing to illegal trade, meaning that it does not apply to Japan. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Kenya, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We'd like to express our support for the intervention that has been put before the committee by Burkina Faso, Ethiopia, Niger, and Senegal. Madam Chair, the analysis presented in this document, 76.2, clearly shows that remaining domestic ivory markets continue to pose risk of contributing to poaching and illegal trade. The draft decisions in Annex 2 offer a practical and necessary path for closing these gaps and ensuring full alignment with Resolution CoP10.10 and the 2025 UN General Assembly resolution. We therefore encourage parties to study the decisions contained in Annex 2 and see their relevance in the conservation of elephants across its range in Africa and Asia. I thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, I have a really, really long list of speakers. I'm going to close the speaker list now. Eswatini will be the last speaker. No, okay. I think he has unpressed. So Indonesia will be the last speaker. United Kingdom, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. With regard to decisions 18.117, Rev CoP19, 18.118 and 18.119, Rev CoP19, which are both being discussed in 76.1 and 76.2, we agree with their renewal as agreed at the Standing Committee 78 and included in CoP20 Doc 76.1 rather than the amended versions included in Annex 1 to 76.3. We consider that the proposed work would duplicate work that is already undertaken as part of the irregular analysis of ivory seizures and through the NIAP process. Turning to draft decision 20XX in 76.3, we would propose deletion of unless the ETIS data aggregates indicate ivory seizures connected to them are at negligible levels. We think this is necessary because negligible levels of ivory seizures connected to a party should not exempt them from reporting. Levels may be negligible due to low enforcement efforts or lack of reporting. And we'd also like to respond to the statement made in the document that the UK ivory market may be contributing to illegal trade. The UK Ivory Act 2018 came into force in 2022. The Act bans dealing in items containing or made of elephant ivory unless they are registered as exempt or certified as exempt under the Act. The UK is committed to stopping illegal ivory trade and actively enforces its regulations. Since the Ivory Act came into force, we have seen a reduction in seizures at the border. The majority of the ivory seizures reported by UK border authorities since 2022 are ivory pieces which have been surrendered by members of the public rather than as a result of enforcement action at the UK border. UK enforcement authorities have also seen a dramatic decline in reports or referrals and investigations of illegal trade in ivory. We have also seen a significant decline in online sales of ivory, which otherwise might have ended up in international markets. At the same time, we have applied increased rigour to compliance checks and enforcement of our legislation. In January this year, the Ivory Act 2018 was extended to include 4 additional CITES listed species. It is now illegal to deal in items made of or containing ivory from elephants, hippopotamus, killer whale, narwhal and sperm whale without a valid registration or exemption certificate. We have concerns that the analysis in this document is based on aggregated ETIS data that are not biased adjusted, and note traffic's comments made in response to this document that interpretation based on data aggregates alone is limited, and we think that the trend analysis and network analysis in the ETIS report to the Standing Committee in COP, which include biased adjusted ETIS data, should be used for this sort of
United Kingdom,
analysis.
can you please wrap
Thank
up?
you.
Thank you. I just want to seek a confirmation from United Kingdom. So I heard your support for Annex 1 of 76.1, is that correct? Okay. And then for Annex 2 of 76.2. United Kingdom, can I hear your position again?
Okay, do you want me to repeat what I said about the decisions? We support the decisions being renewed as agreed at Standing Committee 78, so in CoP20 Doc 76.1.
Yep, okay, and then for 76.2 Annex 2?
Oh, is that decision 20XX? Yeah, so we propose the deletion of unless the ETIS data aggregates indicate ivory seizures connected to them are at negligible levels.
Okay, United Kingdom, I just, for everyone's clarity, so for 76.2 Annex 2, directed to the Secretariat, 20XX, you're proposing to remove the last sentence, unless the ETIS data aggregates indicate ivory seizures connected to them are at negligible levels. Is that right?
That's correct, yes, thank you.
Okay, and for the rest, the directed to the parties, your position will be to support as well?
Yeah, we're not commenting on those decisions. Thank you.
Thank you. New Zealand, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. New Zealand thanks Burkina Faso, Ethiopia, Niger and Senegal for document 76.2 and the assessment of the ETIS data. We note decisions 20XX and Annex 2 of 76.2, directed to individual parties, are directed to parties who responded to a notification inviting parties to provide information on the closure of their domestic ivory markets, including New Zealand. These decisions duplicate revised decision 18117 in document 76.1, which invites updates on domestic ivory closures for consideration at Standing Committee 81. New Zealand responses to the notifications under 18117 Rev CoP19 have advised that New Zealand is reviewing its CITES implementing legislation and through this process is incorporating a tool to enable domestic regulation of CITES listed species including ivory. The assessment in document 76.2 also concludes that New Zealand has good law enforcement and acknowledges only small quantities of ivory are associated with New Zealand seizures. We have a very small domestic ivory market, and this is consistent with ETIS data. We respectfully ask that decision 20XX focused on New Zealand in Annex 2 of document 76.2 be deleted. Thank you.
UAE, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. We support the intervention made by Japan. The UAE thanks the proponent for their continued commitment to elephant conservation. We fully share the objectives that no domestic ivory market should contribute to poaching or illegal trade, in line with the resolution Conference 10.10 Rev CoP19. At the same time, we would like to offer three brief observations. First, on mandate. CITES is primarily a convention on international trade. Parties have already carefully negotiated the balance reflected in Resolution Conference 10.10, and we would therefore be cautious about moving toward perspective, party-specific calls related to domestic markets. Second, on process. We recall that MIC, ETIS, and the NEAP process are the agreed mechanisms within CITES to assess risk and identify parties of concerns. Any additional measures should, in our view, remain firmly anchored in those tools to ensure objectivity, consistency, and equal treatment of parties. Third, we note that a number of parties have complied with the reporting obligations under Decision 18.117, while others have not yet done so. It may therefore be more constructive to strengthen overall compliance with existing decisions, rather than introduce new country-specific directions at this stage. We therefore don't support the decisions in Annex 2 of 76.2. Finally, we would encourage that any further discussions on domestic ivory markets be undertaken in a holistic manner through the Standing Committee, grounded in MIC and ETIS analysis and existing NEAB processes, rather than through ad hoc party-specific decisions at this COP. Thank you, Chair.
Benin, you have the floor.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Nous remercions le Burkina Faso, l'Éthiopie, le Niger et le Sénégal pour cette proposition qui vise la mise en œuvre de la résolution CONF 1010 de la COP 19. En effet, l'existence de marchés d'ivoire ne peut qu'être qu'un risque, quel qu'il soit, pour l'abattage illégal et le commerce illégal des ivoires. Et c'est pour cela que nous soutenons les amendements ou bien la décision proposée, et nous soutenons le contenu de l'annexe 1 de la décision 16.1. Merci.
United States of America, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In 2016, the United States finalized a near total ban on African elephant ivory, building on already strong protections for elephants. We believe all legal commercial ivory markets legitimize and fuel demand, provide cover for illegal trade, and hinder law enforcement efforts to detect and combat ivory trafficking globally. On this issue is very important to the United States. Therefore, we support the draft decisions as found in Annex 1 of CoP20 Doc 76.1. Additionally, we can support the draft decision 20XX found in document 76.2, directed to the Secretariat with the edit made by the United Kingdom. We do not support the remainder of the draft decisions directed to specific parties in Annex 2 of that document.
Namibia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Namibia appreciates document 76.2 and acknowledge the effort of the proponents in addressing the implementation of aspects of the resolution CONF 10.10 Rev COP19 on the closure of domestic ivory markets. However, Namibia does not support the adoption of draft revised decisions as proposed. We are concerned that draft revised decision may place additional administration burdens on patents, on parties, and extend beyond the mandate of the conventions, whose primary role is to regulate international trade in wildlife specimens. Thank you, Chair.
Namibia, can I clarify which draft decisions you're supporting? Which document, 76.1 or 76.2?
76.2, Chair. Yeah.
So can I clarify, you're saying that you do not support 76.2?
That's correct.
Kuwait, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Kuwait supports Japan and notes that its domestic ivory market is strictly regulated based on the legal important historical stock, with no evidence that it is contribution to poaching or illegal trade. Kuwait therefore see no basis for additional measure and support Japan's position and reject the decisions on document 76.2. Thank you.
European Union, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I speak on behalf of the EU and its 27 member states. This intervention concerns document 76.2. Whilst we acknowledge the importance of strict control with domestic ivory trade, we cannot support the recommendations in the document. Aligning with the assessment of the Secretariat, we would renew the decisions as proposed in Working Document 76.1 without the revisions contained in Annex 1 to this document. We also note that appropriate procedures to identify parties affected by illegal trade in ivory are already in place, namely the NIA process. The EU and its member states also oppose the draft decisions presented in Annex 2. The decisions directed to the parties seem to only consider parties that responded to the relevant notification. We would like to refer to the advice provided by the Mike ETIS tag and Mike ETIS subgroup to the 78th meeting of the Standing Committee. The advice provided was that no practicable criteria were available to determine whether a domestic ivory market was closed. In addition, we find that the general methodology used in this document to interpret the ETIS data would have to be considerably improved before conclusions on the causation between the domestic regulation of ivory markets, in particular parties, and ivory seizures can be drawn. There is no sufficient basis for the decisions proposed that are targeted at particular parties. But to be clear, the proposed new process is not supported by the EU and its member states. The existing NIA process is sufficient. Thank you, ma'am.
Zimbabwe, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair, for giving me the floor. And as Zimbabwe, I want to thank the proponents for this document for their intention to contribute to elephant conservation in a broad sense. I'm referring my comments to 76.2, Chair. As Zimbabwe strongly oppose the revisions to the decisions 18.119 Rev CoP20 in Annex 1 of this document, as it is a clear attempt to unlawfully regulate domestic trade. Chair, this is an area which falls clearly outside the purview of the CITES, and this is an issue that has been discussed several times. We urge parties to rather focus on strengthening their domestic regulatory and law enforcement mechanisms as a way of combating wildlife crime, especially parties under the National Ivory Action Plan process. We also recommend parties struggling with illegal wildlife trade to also participate or to be in the NEA process. With respect to Annex 2 of the same document, 76.2, regulation, Chair, let alone prohibition of domestic trade, is a province and the responsibility of the individual parties, and I want to emphasize on that, not the purview of CITES. Parties have the responsibility to regulate their own ivory domestic trade. It is critical for parties to put in place measures and implement the same, and not to repeatedly be singled out for law enforcement failures. Zimbabwe has effective measures for the regulation of illegal domestic ivory market, and there is no evidence, Chair, that the domestic market is contributing to poaching or illegal trade, and does not therefore support draft decision 20.XX in Annex number 2 of this present document. Thank you, Chair.
Mali, you have the floor.
Merci bien, Madame la Présidente, pour la parole donnée. Et le Mali remercie le Burkina Faso, l'Éthiopie, le Niger, le Burkina, le Sénégal pour ce document. Le Mali soutient le document 76.2 et afin que les marchés intérieurs légaux de l'Ivoire ne contribuent pas au braconnage et au commerce illégal. Merci.
Tanzania, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm making intervention in reference to document 76.2, which was submitted by Burkina Faso, Ethiopia, Niger, and Senegal. Madam Chair, the issue under discussion goes beyond the mandate of CITES. We are cognizant that CITES is legally binding on parties, but it does not replace national laws. It rather provides a framework to be respected by each party, which have to adopt their own domestic legislation. Madam Chair, the United Republic of Tanzania would like to align ourselves with the sentiment expressed by the distinguished delegate from Japan, and also with the recommendation of the CITES Secretariat not to support the revision of the decision on closure of domestic ivory market contained in Annex 1 to the document 76.2. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thailand, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Thailand thank the proponent for submitting this working document. As a country that having domestic ivory market with the raw material legally taken from the captive elephant. Keeping captive elephant is part of livelihood of the local community. Thailand has strong view that the existing RESCON 1010 clearly specify the mechanism for the control of domestic ivory market, and when the closure of the domestic ivory market is needed, which is when the market contributed to the illegal trade and the poaching of the elephants. In addition, CITES had naive mechanism, had able to identify the party of concern. We, therefore, thought that the current provisions are effectively sufficient for control of the ivory market, and we oppose the proposal in document 76.2. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Eswatini, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to thank those who worked on this document. However, I'd like to point out that legal domestic markets are a national issue and do not fall under the purview of CITES. If domestic markets are found by evidence that they contribute internationally to poaching, then CITES has a role to play in that context. If domestic markets stimulate domestic poaching, then this remains a national issue to be handled at national level. In respect of Japan, it's important to remember that Japan purchased stockpiles during the one-off sales, and it has not been identified as a country of concern by the studies. We feel it is out of place for CITES to call for closure of domestic markets of any species, especially legal markets, unless there is evidence and not opinion that these markets stimulate international trade by poaching and illegal activity. We therefore do not support the closing of legal domestic markets in document 76.2 20XX. However, what we can support is the call for further information from parties to demonstrate the legal trade in their countries. We suggest that every party would benefit from improving national controls, and recourse to CITES should be a secondary management option. Thank you.
Okay, last speaker, Indonesia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Indonesia welcomes the continued attention to elephant conservation and recognizes the importance of ETIS and MIC in guiding our collective efforts. We note that parties have complied with Decision 18117 by submitting reports on measures taken to ensure their domestic markets do not contribute to poaching or illegal trade. We also note that several countries of concern have long supported elephant range states, including through contribution to the MIC program, which directly strengthens anti-poaching and enforcement capacity. These cooperative efforts deserve recognition as part of the broader picture. At the same time, Indonesia underscores that CITES is a convention designed to regulate international trade between parties. Directing measures toward the closure of purely domestic markets would extend beyond CITES' mandate and scope. We believe a balanced approach is needed to serve our shared objective of protecting elephants. Therefore, in line with the position of Japan, Indonesia believes it is not the right timing to discuss proposal concerning closure of domestic market in the document 76.2. I thank you.
Okay, thank you, parties. I will just sum up based on what I'm hearing. If you now look at 76.1, Annex 1, I do see overall support for this document. So, to renew the decisions, 18.117, 18.118, and 18.119 as contained in Annex 1 to 76.1. That is what I'm hearing. There is overall support for that. So I'll just repeat again. So the committee agree to renew decisions 18.117, 118, and 119 on closure of domestic ivory markets as contained in Annex 1 to 76.1. Okay. For 76.2, I did not hear overall support for Annex 1 and Annex 2. Niger, you have the floor.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Le Niger est co-auteur du document 76.2. Pour notre pays, il est clair que tout marché intérieur de l'ivoire présente un risque important de contribuer au braconnage ou bien au commerce illicite. Le DOC 76.2 continue le travail que la conférence de parties a débuté il y a maintenant près de 10 ans, en recommandant la fermeture des marchés intérieurs de l'ivoire. Nous saluons les grands progrès accomplis et les mesures prises par tant de pays pour fermer leurs marchés nationaux de l'ivoire. Grâce à ces efforts collectifs, la différence s'est fait sentir pour nos éléphants.
Cela étant, nous estimons qu'il reste encore quelques efforts à consentir car certains pays n'ont pas encore fermé leur marché. Or, l'analyse des dernières données ETIS figurant dans le document 76.2 donne des informations qui permettent raisonnablement de conclure qu'il existe un risque non négligeable qu'il pourrait contribuer au braconnage ou au commerce illégal. Madame la Présidente, les projets de décision figurant à l'annexe 2 du document 76.2 offrent aux pays concernés ainsi qu'au secrétariat l'opportunité de prendre des mesures supplémentaires et d'accomplir les derniers efforts indispensables pour réduire ces risques. Il en va de la survie de nos éléphants, toujours gravement menacés par le braconnage et le commerce illégal de l'élevage et de l'ivoire, disons. Nous encourageons les parties à soutenir l'adoption de nouvelles décisions à l'intention du secrétariat et des parties concernées. Cela, à notre humble avis, garantira la mise en œuvre de la cohérence avec la résolution 1010 ainsi qu'avec la résolution de l'Assemblée générale des Nations unies adoptée en juin 2025 appelant à la fermeture des marchés intérieurs légaux de l'ivoire. Merci, Madame la Présidente.
United States of America, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just concerning the Annex 2 of document 76.2, there seemed to be some support for the draft decision 20XX directed to the Secretariat. And then I think there was an amendment by the European Union. I'm sorry, the United Kingdom. The United States did support that draft decision.
Yeah, but I did not hear any more support from the other parties, so I would make the decision to actually just delete, to not agree to 76.2, Annex 1 and Annex 2. I do see a list of speakers, but I just want to sum up, and I just want to go through again on 76.1, again, just to make sure that everyone's clear on what we are agreeing to. So can I request that we clear the list first, and then if you have any comments, then you press your button, or you're not clear about what we are agreeing to. So going back to 76.1, we are agreeing to 56 little b, renew decisions 18.117, 18.118, 18.119 on closure of domestic ivory markets as contained in Annex 1. If you have objections, you can press your button now. Okay, I do not see any. Then I come to document 76.2. Annex 1 and Annex 2, Annex 1 and Annex 2. I did not see overall support for this document, 76.2. Okay, so I'll take one last intervention from Observer Party. Conservation Force, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will be extremely brief on 76.2. This conference on the parties is looking plenary on document 14 because there are unprecedented and increasing volume of work for this conference. And this unprecedented and increasing volume of work is also due to documents which are not filling into the mandate of this convention, Madam Chair. And 76.2 is one of them. Domestic markets are not under the mandate of this convention. And it would be very helpful for the working group on document 14 to just note this and start to cut documents which are not clearly under the mandate of this convention. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, so for 76.2, I'll close the item already because I did not get any objection from the floor. Thank you. Senegal, you have the floor. Are you opposing to my decision?
Oui, je m'excuse, madame, avec tous les honneurs qu'on vous doit, de revenir alors que vous avez tendance à fermer. Nous avons appuyé entre le 76.1 et 76.2, mais on ne nous a pas donné la parole. Pour le 76.1, nous disons que à l'annexe 1, il faudrait juste ajouter, avoir l'ajout, ainsi que les données ETIS. Quand vous dites que vous n'avez pas entendu de soutien, je ne sais pas si j'ai bien écouté ou bien noté, il y a des pays qui ne sont pas auteurs de la proposition 16.2, mais qui ont appuyé. Et là, dans vos conclusions, vous dites que vous n'avez pas noté de soutien. Je ne vais pas polémiquer avec certains, mais sachez une chose, chaque jour que Dieu fait, nous perdons les éléphants en Afrique. Mais où sont partis les ivoires de ces éléphants? C'est dans les marchés nationaux. Donc c'est quelque chose, le spécimen, il est inscrit par la CITES. Donc si son spécimen se retrouve dans un marché national, vous dites que ce n'est pas l'affaire de la CITES, c'est absurde pour moi. Quand le Japon dit que le Sénégal a dit qu'il n'y a pas de données objectives, je m'inscris à faux, je ne l'ai pas dit. Et on peut contrôler ici parce que tout ce que nous disons est enregistré. Les marchés nationaux, c'est ma conviction, contribuent au braconnage. Maintenant, les gens arrivent à faire parvenir les produits de manière sophistiquée et qui échappent aux moyens du contrôle. Voilà la réalité. Nous qui sommes sur la gestion de ces espèces, nous savons que c'est du trafic. Merci.
Thank you, Senegal. Just to clarify, I did not hear overall support for Annex 476.2. That was what I said, that I did not hear overall support. So we noted on your comments. So I'll just repeat again, 76.2 is closed. So now we move to 76.3, Ivory stocks and stockpiles. This document is submitted by Burkina Faso, Ethiopia, Kenya, Niger, and Senegal. I would like one of the countries to introduce the document. Kenya, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I am introducing this document on behalf of the proponents, Kenya, Burkina Faso, Ethiopia, Niger, and Senegal. Madam Chair, since the amendments to Resolution CoP1010, Rev CoP19 contained in Annex 1, are already adopted during the discussion on CoP20 Doc 76.1, I will focus my introductory remarks on the recommendation to renew decisions 18.184A, 18.185, and 19.156. Madam Chair, the suggestion to renew and amend these decisions stems from SC 78, where recommendations from the Secretariat were discussed, and an information document from Benin was presented, but not discussed due to time constraints at that meeting. The committee suggested that the proposal may be presented again to COP20, and that is the reason why the proponent has submitted this document. Madam Chair, renewal of decisions 18.184A, 18.185, and 19.156 with amendments is needed to ensure international oversight of global ivory stockpiles due to the risk they pose of stockpile ivory leaking into illegal trade. Many countries still fail to submit ivory inventories, leading to underreporting of regional figures for stockpile ivory. This underreporting facilitates illegal trade. Madam Chair, it's been reported of theft of ivory, including from inadequately secured government-held stockpiles, contribute to illegal trade and wildlife crime by sustained demand. The growing accumulation of ivory stockpiles worldwide poses a serious risk of leakage into illegal markets. As noted in SC 78, document 65.1, large-scale multi-ton ivory seizures have been reported each year since 2021. This incident suggests that organized criminal activity is still evident in illegal ivory trade and very active. The decisions proposed for renewal will assist with ensuring these issues are addressed. We will also like to note that the renewal of Decision 19.156, paragraph A, with amendments presented in Annex 2, will improve implementation of paragraph 7E in Resolution COMP 10.10 on stockpile reporting. In conclusion, Madam Chair, we call on parties to support the recommendation in this document, and thank you for the floor.
Thank you. So I am looking at, can you please all look at document 76.1? I'm looking at 56F and G now. Document 76.1, recommendation 56F and G, and also document 76.3, recommendations 18A to E. Document 76.3, 18A, we have already agreed on the proposed amendments to the resolution conference 1010 as amended by the chair of the standing committee at agenda 76.1. So 18A has already been completed. This was discussed at 76.1. So now we will look at 18B to E. So when you make your interventions, please make it clear on the decisions whether you are supporting the renewal or deletion, or to which document you're referring to. I open the floor now. Thank you. Togo, you have the floor.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Nous prenons la parole pour apporter les éclaircissements concernant les amendements proposés dans le document 16.3. Comme expliqué dans le document, Les recommandations incluent certaines recommandations formulées par je suis perdu un peu. Oui. Donc, nous intervenons pour soutenir les recommandations du document 16.3. Je vous remercie.
European Union, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I speak on behalf of the EU and its 27 member states. We would like to thank the proponents for preparing the document, and I'm referring to document 76.3. We will align ourselves with the assessment made by the Secretariat and support the adoption of the proposed amendment to ResConf 1010, as you already mentioned. We would support the deletion of decisions 18.184, 18.185, 19.156, and 19.157. Keeping in mind the workload of the Secretariat and the report presented at the 78th meeting of the Standing Committee, we do not find that the amendments proposed in the document sufficiently address the challenges identified. Thank you, Chair.
India, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. With respect to Proposal 76.3, India maintains a complete ban on domestic ivory trade and ivory industry under our National Act. India does not have any significant government or privately held ivory stockpiles. However, India supports the declaration of ivory stockpiles by other parties and their proper disposal plan to enhance transparency and accountability. Thank you, Chair.
Mali, you have the floor.
Merci bien, Madame la Présidente. Et nous profitons de ce micro pour remercier et féliciter les co-auteurs par rapport à ce document. Et comme l'a été souligné par le Kenya et tous ceux qui ont intervenu, le Mali emboîte leur pas pour soutenir ce document. Merci bien, Madame la Présidente.
Burkina Faso, you have the floor.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Le Burkina Faso est co-auteur de ce document et les amendements à la résolution CONF 10 et l'ensemble des décisions présentées dans le document 76.3 sont essentiels pour garantir que des ressources adéquates soient allouées au stock d'ivoire, afin d'éviter toute fuite d'ivoire vers le marché noir et d'assurer que les parties à la CITES soient informées chaque année des volumes de ces stocks. Bien que les amendements à la résolution soient importants, sans le renouvellement et la mise en jour des décisions 18-184-185, le système que nous utilisons pour surveiller les stocks, leur gestion et identifier les cas de fuite serait compromis. Pour cette raison, nous encourageons toutes les parties à soutenir ces amendements et décisions. Merci, Madame la Présidente.
DRC, you have the floor.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. La République démocratique du Congo soutient les recommandations contenues dans le document 76.3. À l'interne, il y a déjà les marchés nationaux qui ont été fermés et la constitution des stocks des ivoires est faite avec un système moderne et donc nous soutenons totalement les documents 76.3. Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Liberia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Liberia would like to thank the proponents of this document and giving its critical role in controlling the trade of ivory. Liberia would like to support the document. Thank you.
Zimbabwe, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. We, as Zimbabwe, we do not support the adoption of the draft decisions in Annex 2 of this present document. The Secretariat is already in contact with the parties identified with the limitations and issues, and discussions are ongoing, so this particular draft decision does not add any value besides simply adding to the workload of the already overburdened Secretariat. We also do not support the adoption of draft decision 19.156, as this is already addressed in the resolution conference 10.10. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, I'm going to close the list, and United States of America will be the last speaker. I have Benin.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Il faut dire que nous félicitons les pays auteurs, le Burkina Faso, l'Éthiopie, le Kenya, le Niger, pour cette proposition. Et cette proposition met le doigt sur un sujet fondamental, parce que l'accumulation de stocks d'ivoire constitue un risque de fuite dans les marchés et pourrait aggraver le braconnage sur les éléphants. Et c'est pour ça que nous soutenons ces recommandations. Merci.
Tanzania, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The United Republic of Tanzania applaud the proponent for preparing this document, and we thank the Secretariat for providing the analysis and the comment on the same. Madam Chair, the United Republic of Tanzania would like to align ourselves with the position of the EU, Zimbabwe, and the other parties who oppose the present document submitted for discussion. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Congo, you have the floor.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Le Congo félicite et soutient les auteurs de ce document et conclut pour soutenir cette proposition. Merci.
United States of America, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The United States thanks the proponents for bringing this document forward on this important issue. However, we note the comments of the Secretariat and the challenges experienced in identifying parties, and the document does not provide a new approach forward. So in light of that, we do not support the draft decisions in Annex 2, and we do support the deletion of decisions 19.156 and 19.157.
I now open the floor for observer organizations and non-parties. I will just take one in view of the time limit. Thank you. David Shepherd, Wildlife Foundation, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm making this intervention on behalf of 16 organizations. We appreciate the adoption of decisions under 76.1 regarding ivory stockpiles. But we wish to express our strong support for 76.3 and the views expressed by Kenya, proponents of the document, Benin, Burkina Faso, Mali, DRC, Liberia, Congo, and other countries in support. The amendments proposed in document 17.3 are important to enhance the decisions under 76.1 regarding ivory stockpiles. We welcome the document since it fills critical gaps to help ensure ivory stockpile reporting and monitoring by CITES parties, and urge parties to support it and listen to the voices of those parties who've been speaking about the importance of managing and reporting on ivory stockpiles. Reporting on ivory stockpiles is a critical part of stockpile management and prevention of leakage into trade. But as has been pointed out, many parties still do not report, leading to an underestimate of global and regional stockpile levels. In this respect, decisions 18.184 and 18.185 have been critical in presenting information about parties who are not reporting. The decisions in document 17.3 shine a spotlight on this, and they need to be implemented, not deleted. And I would specifically emphasize the importance of renewing 18.184 and 18.185. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. So I will just sum up now, hearing from the floor. For document 76.1, 56F, delete decisions 19.156 and 19.157. I hear more parties supporting the deletion for 19.156 and 19.157. So the committee agrees to delete decisions 19.156 and 19.157. I repeat again, for document 76.1, the committee agreed to delete decisions 19.156 and 19.157. If you have strong objections, press your button now. Okay. For for 76.1, recommendation 56G, whether to delete or renew decisions 18.14, 18.15. So 56G, I hear more parties supporting the deletion of decisions 18.184, 185, and also the paragraph B of decision 18.184 for incorporation to resolution 1010, which is in Annex 2 of this document, which means that consequently we do not agree to 76.3, because I saw more parties speaking up to delete the decisions. If you have strong objections, please press your button now. Kenya, you have the floor.
Madam Chair, we want to object to a deletion of 18.184A and 18.185. And we did get significant support for renewal of these decisions, 18.184A and 18.185. Deleting them will be a very big setback to stockpile management, and we strongly request the parties to reconsider and not delete these two decisions. Thank you, Madam Chair.
United Kingdom, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. We agree with the intervention just made by Kenya, that decision 18.184A and decision 18.185 should both be renewed. Thank you.
All right, I think for transparency, I will just read out what I heard from the floor previously on who supported the renewal and who did not support, so that everyone is aware. So for those that supported the renewal, I heard from Togo, Mali, Burkina Faso, United Kingdom, Ethiopia, Niger, Nigeria, Senegal, DRC, Liberia, Congo. So which is 11. And for those that that wanted to delete the decisions, it was EU and its 27 member states, Zimbabwe, Tanzania, and USA, which comes up to 30. So in a spirit of compromise, I want to see if those that oppose, or those that wanted to delete the decisions, can we come to a compromise, or can we consider Kenya's intervention since they feel strongly to renew the decisions? United States of America, you can floor.
Thank you very much, Chair. The United States can support the renewal of the decision. We really just hope that there's an approach that can be found during this intersessional period to be able to identify these parties. But we can support that in the spirit of compromise.
European Union, I would like to seek comments from you as well.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The EU could support the renewal of Decision 18.184, subpoint A, and renewal of Decision 18.185. We could not support Decision 18.184, subpoint B and C, but we could support renewal A. So, thank you.
Nigeria, I see you asking for the floor, but I'm just asking the ones that did not agree to it for comments, so that we can come to a compromise. So can you? Yeah, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for the compromise. Thank you very much. So I will read out what we are agreeing to so that we're all on the same page. So the committee agree to renew draft decision 18.184A and 18.185 in document 76.3, Annex 2. I repeat again, the committee agree to agree on draft decision 18.184, little a, and 18.185 in document 76.3, Annex 2. Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much for the compromise. Thank you. So we have completed all the recommendations in 76.1, 76.2, and 76.3. So I will close these 3 agenda items. Thank you. Okay, now I open the agenda item 76.6, results of the African Elephant Dialogue meeting. The document is submitted by the Standing Committee. So the outcome of the African Elephant Dialogue meeting is found in 2 documents under discussion at CoP20, including Proposal 14 on the amendment to Annotation A10, and the agreed language on sustainable finance contained in document CoP20 76.7. Consequently, the Standing Committee recommends that the Conference of Parties welcome the outcome of the African Elephant Range State Dialogue meeting, included in the Annex 76.6, and also delete decisions 19.167 and 19.168. So I will open the floor now to parties. Thank you. Botswana, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Botswana welcomes the outcome of the African Elephant Range State Dialogue meeting as set out in the communique of the meeting and included in the annex to the present document. And we support the deletion of decisions 19.167 and 19.168. We wish to express our appreciation to the previous chairperson of the Standing Committee, Ms. Rosemary Nam, for her guidance, the CITES Secretariat and donors for their support and the commitment demonstrated by the African Elephant Range States, resulting in the consensus reflected in the communique. We look forward to the approval and implementation of the outcomes of the dialogue meeting. Thank you.
Zimbabwe, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Zimbabwe would like to align ourselves with what Botswana has just said, and we want to congratulate the African Range States, to the elephant, and all those who participated in the dialogue meeting for having made a significant step forward towards elephant conservation, and we hope this will one day clear the existing elephant stalemate in the future. So we look forward to welcoming this and deletion of the appropriate decision. Thank you, Chair.
Kenya, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Kenya will first like to sincerely thank the government of Botswana for the considerable efforts invested in convening the Maun Dialogue meeting through the African Union Commission. The process reflects our willingness to strengthen African consultation on complex and sensitive issues, and we wish to commend this spirit of collaboration. Our discussions have continued in an ongoing process since we want to achieve the best outcome for elephants. Madam Chair, upon reflection, we have identified several essential elements, notably those related to Annotation A10, Proposal 14, and the draft decision on sustainable financing on 76.7 that will benefit from further clarification to achieve a coherent and robust legal framework as intended along with the decision on sustainable finance for elephants, conservation through non-commercial means. We wish to avoid any unintentional loopholes while remaining conscious of the spirit that brought us together. Madam Chair, I will again want to reiterate and thank Rosemary, our chair, the former chair of the Standing Committee, for guiding this process that ended up to the current report that we take note of. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Namibia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair, for the floor. Namibia appreciate the outcome of African Elephant Range Stage Dialogue meeting, which was agreed by consensus and demonstrate the collective commitment of the range states to the co-management of African elephant populations. Therefore, Namibia supports the deletion of decision 19.167 and 19.168 as decisions have been fully implemented. Thank you, Chair.
Tanzania, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. United Republic of Tanzania wishes to align ourselves with the previous speaker in appreciating the African Elephant Range State for their spirit of collaboration, which has been demonstrated during the African Elephant Consultative Meeting held in Mount Botswana. Also, we appreciate the Republic of Botswana for hosting the meeting. Further, Tanzania supports the deletion of decision 19.17 and 19.168, as this decision has been fully implemented and results are now out for the consideration of the Conference of the Parties. Thank you.
Thank you. I will close the speaker list now in the interest of time. So Uganda, you'll be the last speaker. Zambia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. I thought it was going to be a repeat of yesterday. Zambia welcomes the Maui outcomes, and this is a show of a coordinated approach to managing our elephants. Zambia being a range state, we participated, and we invite donor support for the actions endorsed during the dialogue. I thank you, Chair.
Mali, you have the floor.
Merci bien, Madame la Présidente. Madame la Présidente, si vous voyez ce travail, dire que les gens sont partis au Botswana et que nous avons travaillé là-bas, demandez à plein de pays ici présents s'ils ont même eu l'occasion d'avoir leur visa pour entrer dans ce pays, s'ils ont eu aussi l'invitation. Madame la Présidente, le terme consensus dont il est question ici, je vois qu'il faut peser ça. Pour nous, il n'y a pas eu consensus parce que nous n'étions même pas présents. Cela étant, le Mali s'appuie sur toutes les interventions qui ont été faites par le Kenya ici. Je vous remercie.
Benin, you have the floor.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Nous saluons l'esprit de collaboration qui existe pour garantir une longue vie aux éléphants d'Afrique et nous prenons note de ce travail qui a été fait et nous pensons quand même qu'il reste encore beaucoup de choses à faire pour qu'il y ait un financement durable pour les éléphants. Et nous nous joignons notre voix au Kenya pour les propositions qui ont été faites. Merci.
Uganda, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Chair, Uganda being a range state, actively participated in the Maun dialogue meeting, and we welcome the outcome of this meeting. We also support the deletion of decisions 19.167 and 19.168. Thank you, Chair.
I open the floor now to non-parties and observer organizations. I'll take 1 to 2. Conservation Force, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. We welcome the outcome of the Elephant Dialogue meeting, Madam Chair. Consensus is the cornerstone of democracy, and unity is the foundation of strength. Acting together, one for all and all for one, will make Africa a greater force, a force to be reckoned with instead of the whipping boy for the mistake of others. It's time for Africa, Madam Chair, to take charge of its own conservation destiny and narrative, for nations to be rewarded for their conservation successes and not scorned for achievement, for Africa to vote together, stand together, and rise together. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Foundation, Franz Weber, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. In the interest of time, I've compiled input from a number of observer organisations, and I'm making this intervention on behalf of 16 observer organisations. So in relation to the proposed amendments to annotation A10 in CITES Appendices 2, which is set out in Annex 2 to the communique, as was raised by Kenya, we are concerned that these changes, as they're currently drafted, are at risk of introducing ambiguity and potential loosening of trade controls. We'll raise this again, of course, when Proposal 14 is introduced for discussion. We also support the intervention of Kenya that it may be necessary to amend the draft decisions on sustainable financing. Again, this will be discussed further under item 76.7, but we'd like to make sure there's no loopholes, particularly if these loopholes may allow commercial trade, culling or the capture of elephants. And finally, in relation to decision 19.168, we urge parties to consider supporting this decision remaining in effect until the legal framework for live elephant trade is clarified and has been fully implemented. And I'd just like to say we do recognise the hard work of the African elephant range states and their efforts in resolving some very complex issues. We support the continuation of these discussions at this COP, and we look forward to those discussions going again in the interests of good diplomacy as we've seen so far. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. I would just like to sum up. I did not hear objection to the recommendations in 10A and B. So I'll go ahead that the committee agree to welcome the outcome of the African Elephant Range State Dialogue meeting as set out in the communique of the meeting and included in the annex to the present document, and delete decisions 19.167 and 19.168. I repeat again, the committee agreed to welcome the outcome of the African Elephant Range State Dialogue meeting as set out in the communique of the meeting and included in the annex to the present document, and delete decisions 19.167 and 19.168. If you have any objections, you can press the button now. Botswana, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. I think Botswana would just wish to respond to a remark made by the delegate from Mali concerning the issue of visas. This is a matter that was certainly never brought to the attention of Botswana. We had made every effort to ensure that all delegates from African Elephant Range states were provided with visas to travel to Botswana. We would therefore, Chair, request Mali to withdraw that remark. Thank you.
Botswana, I took note of it, note on the comments, and I'll close this agenda item. Thank you. Kenya, I see that you press your button. Are you trying to raise the issue on the visa as well, or you have objection to the decision made just now?
I was seeking some clarification on our report of the dialogue meeting because it was supposed for the parties to note. Now I'm seeing a call for deletions of decisions. That was not a call to parties. I think there will be informal proposals. So the parties were supposed to note the report of the dialogue meeting. But I'm seeing a rider that we are approving certain decisions, which I don't think is the right. That was not the call of the report. We were to note or welcome the report, but now we are making also some deletions of decisions that is, I think, I don't know, I'm just seeking some clarification on what is going on.
Kenya, can you please refer to the document 76.6? So when I opened this agenda item, I was seeking comments for recommendations 10A and B, and I did hear support to delete decisions 19.167 and 19.16A. Kenya, you have the floor.
Madam Chair, the call for a dialogue meeting, and you know, when we say we are still continuing to have dialogue, and we are deleting a decision that calls for a dialogue, that's where my confusion is arising to. And I did mention that in this report, there are certain statements that we were still consulting and agreeing to. I don't want to stand between consensus of the Africa group, but I will want to limit this to noting the report for the COP to welcome the African Range States report, and request my colleagues that in our range states we can still discuss this deletion of 167, 168.
Kenya, I will pass the floor to Secretariat to just explain on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Just to clarify on the dialogue meetings, there is Resolution Conf 14.5 regarding dialogue meetings that allows parties to call for dialogue meetings of any kind and requests for the Secretariat and the Standing Committee and others to support. So this resolution can be activated at the time that the parties wish for dialogue meetings. Thank you, Chair.
Kenya, I see you asked for the floor. Would it be the same comments?
So I think with that clarification, we can continue with the deletion. Thank you, and sorry for bringing this back.
I now open agenda item 76.7, Sustainable Financing for African Elephant Conservation and Management. The document is submitted by Zimbabwe. I would like to ask Zimbabwe to introduce the document. Zimbabwe, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Chair. Chair, this document is its foundation in the recommendations of the CITES dialogue meeting for African elephant range states, which took place in September 2024 in Maun, Botswana, as reflected in the communique published as CITES notification number 2024/111 in the minor amendments at the CITES CoP20 Africa preparatory meeting in Johannesburg, South Africa in April this year. The two meetings, as well as Standing Committee 78, recommended submission to COP21. The draft decisions contained in Annex 1 to this present document, and Chair, is also linked to the previous document 76.6, which we have just adopted as Committee number 2. In summary, the decisions propose the convening of a technical workshop for African elephant range states to consider mechanisms of a sustainable management of elephants and ivory stockpiles including non-commercial disposal of ivory stockpiles and other means for the purpose of mobilizing the needed resources to support the conservation and management of elephants. Recommendations shared from this workshop will be submitted to the Standing Committee for processing and submission to the 21st meeting of the Conference of the Parties. There's a growing realization that elephant conservation is a complex and expensive endeavor that requires mitigating human-elephant conflict, controlling habitat loss, and combating poaching and illegal trade, amongst other so many challenges. Addressing elephant conservation challenges therefore requires adequate and sustainable financing, and discussions on financing mechanisms have been ongoing for some time, including in recent meetings. We therefore recommend to COP to adopt the decisions contained in Annex 1 to this present document. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. So as you've heard, the Conference of Parties is invited to adopt the draft decisions on sustainable financing for the conservation and management of African elephants contained in Annex 1 of document 76.7. I now open the floor to parties. Botswana, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Botswana would wish to align herself with the recommendations contained within the document. Thank you.
Japan, you have the floor.
And Japan appreciates the effort of Zimbabwe in preparing this document. Japan supports this proposal. Elephant conservation requires addressing a wide range of challenges, including mitigating human-elephant conflict, preventing habitat loss, and combating poaching and illegal trade. These efforts are complex and costly. This proposal seeks to advance technical discussions on sustainable financing for elephant conservation based on the outcome of the African Elephant Dialogue meeting. These activities are essential to achieving sustainable management of elephants. Japan supports this initiative and invites other parties to also support this proposal. Thank you.
Nigeria, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Nigeria appreciates Zimbabwe for preparing this proposal. We support the recommendation for securing sustainable financing for the range states, and we align our thoughts with the other speakers. Thank you.
Zambia, you have the floor.
Chair, Zambia aligns with Zimbabwe and support the proposal. This will ensure that our conservation efforts are seen and are realized. And we believe as Zambia that this is the core of conservation, to ensure that resources are mobilized and put back into conservation. We submit, Chair. Thank you.
Tanzania, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. United Republic of Tanzania wishes to commend Zimbabwe for preparing the document and recommendation therein. Madam Chair, the cost of conserving elephants are increasing, but the financial resources are declining over time. Restrictions over the utilization of elephant parts and derivatives have reduced the economic value for elephants, making them a conservation burden. Meanwhile, elephants continue to threaten human lives, food security, and livelihood, yet provide few benefits. The proposed decision in Annex 1 offers a solid basis for mobilizing financial resources for elephant management, addressing human-elephant conflicts, and also tackling poaching and illicit trade. We emphasize that use elephant to conserve elephant, meaning that we sustainably utilize elephants to generate the needed benefit to community. Because without real incentive, gaining local support for conservation of elephant is becoming increasingly difficult. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, I'll close the speaker list. Benin, Kenya, you're the last one. So I have Mozambique, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for the floor.
Thank you for the floor, Madam Chair. So Mozambique is also aligned with Zimbabwe and the other elephant range states. Therefore, we fully support the idea of mobilizing resources to support the conservation and management of elephant. Thank you. I submit, Madam Chair.
Namibia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Namibia also aligned itself with the previous speaker regarding the adoption of draft decisions. As found in document COP20, COP20.7.67, Annex 1. Thank you, Chair.
Benin, you have the floor.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Nous apprécions les propositions, mais nous constatons que le projet de décision actuel omet fondamentalement l'amendement qui a été proposé par le Bénin lors de la 78e session du comité. Et nous pensons que même s'il est important d'avoir des financements pour la conservation des éléphants, il est aussi bien de s'assurer que les ressources financières qui sont mobilisées proviennent essentiellement des moyens non commerciaux afin de soutenir la conservation de l'éléphant de l'Afrique. Et pour cela, nous pensons aussi que le mandat de cet atelier doit être très bien défini par l'ensemble du comité permanent et aussi de préciser que les objectifs de cet atelier, ce serait d'examiner les mécanismes de mobilisation des ressources pour la conservation des éléphants et non de se limiter aux mécanismes à mettre en place pour la mobilisation de ces ressources. Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Kenya, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, Kenya would like to thank Zimbabwe for submitting this document and recognizes the importance of ensuring sustainable financing for the conservation of the African elephant. This is a critical issue for all the elephant range states. Madam Chair, we recall that the idea of a financial mechanism stems from a proposal submitted by Kenya at COP19 aimed at supporting conservation through the non-commercial disposal of ivory stockpiles. Clarity in the mandate is therefore essential to avoid any ambiguity or interpretation inconsistent with elephant conservation objectives. Madam Chair, we therefore want to support the intervention made by Benin. We agree that the draft decision in document 76.7 will benefit from adjustments to ensure a transparent, inclusive process and outcomes that have broad support from all the range states. When these amendments were done, I want to confirm, and that's why I was saying this report still needs some consultation between us. They were not circulated. So we particularly support clarifying the scope of the workshop, specifying the non-commercial nature of the mechanisms discussed, broadening participation, and ensuring full oversight by the Standing Committee. Madam Chair, Kenya will therefore want to propose, so that to save on time, an intersessional group just to make sure the decisions is acceptable to all of us as range states and to other parties that could be interested in this subject. I submit.
I now open the floor to non-parties and observer organizations. I'll just take one. David Shepherd Wildlife Foundation, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm making this intervention on behalf of 16 observer organizations. We support the interventions by Kenya and Benin and consider that the draft decisions do need some further work to ensure the terms of reference and the convening of the technical workshop is overseen first by the full standing committee, which we think is necessary to maintain its legitimacy and achieve good outcomes. We also support participation of observer organizations, potential donor parties, and relevant financial institutions. This would make sure that all the information relevant to the workshop is available and again ensure best possible outcomes. Finally, we would agree with Benin and also Kenya that the purpose of the workshop needs to be more clearly defined, with a focus on reviewing mechanisms to mobilize financial resources through non-commercial means to support the conservation of African elephants. And we believe that this is the intention of all the parties that were involved in this. It's just that the wording is unclear. If this committee does establish an in-session group, which we would support to try to get some decisions that all can agree to and go forward positively on this issue, then we would respectfully request to be included. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. So I've heard from the floor, and my sensing is that there needs to be a drafting group because there was some comments on the scoping of the workshop. So my suggestion for the way forward is that the African elephant range states form a small drafting group to revise the draft decisions and then send back to the committee. I would like to see if there's any agreement from the speakers before. Zimbabwe, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Without necessarily opposing your suggestion, remember I said this document 76.7 is also linked to 76.6, which is a communique from the Botswana Dialogue meeting. And the draft decisions are largely from that meeting. So it could be of interest to the whole conference to know exactly if there is any party which is now thinking of changing the contents of the communique and where exactly, so that it becomes clear and we don't unnecessarily drag this whole issue where African Range Assessment and discussed on this, and the whole request for this this proposal or this document is to have a working group, a technical workshop to work on the item. So the exact contents of the terms of reference and other related matters will come at the right time. So I'm not sure if we are now into the content of the technical workshop. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Zimbabwe. So I'm actually looking at, because the comments were mainly on the scoping of the workshop, so I was thinking that the drafting group can look at 20AA little b on that specific draft decision, 20AA little b, to just refine it, because I think the comments was on scoping of the workshop. Senegal, you have the floor.
Merci, Madame. J'ai écouté attentivement les interventions et je me pose la question s'il faut peut-être mettre en place un groupe de travail sur la question qui permettrait de bien affiner ce document. Merci.
I'm only looking at a small subparagraph, 20AA little b, based on the comments from the floor just now. So I do not see the need to form a big working group or a working group, so it's just a small drafting group to just refine 20AA little b. Tanzania, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We recommend that a small working group should be for African elephant range state only, because this is the communique from the African elephant range state dialogue meeting held in Mammoth. Thank you.
Zimbabwe, can I get sensing from you? Is what I propose okay? Just to look at 20AA little b.
20AA little b, which is basically the convening of the technical workshop.
Yes.
And I haven't really re-looked at the actual wording, but if I would get a few more seconds, but I think the wording in this, in 28AA little b, is exactly as it appears in the communique, which was widely circulated and have been agreed by the range states. So we saying we want to change the wording that is in the communique. If you can clarify that, Chair.
Translators, can I get 5 more minutes? Thank you. Zimbabwe. So the communique was submitted by the elephant range states, and the parties that commented on it just now are those that attended the dialogue as well. And I think the comment was that they just want to scope the workshop, the details of the workshop, and I do not want to open the entire document again here. So I'm suggesting the way forward is to form a drafting group with only the African range states to discuss about it. Can I get your agreement on that?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, the group can be formed, no problem with that, but what exactly do you want us to do in that group? Do you want us to rephrase, or do you want us to go beyond the communique and work into the technical details of the workshop?
Zimbabwe, as mentioned just now, the interventions from the other range states was that the workshop was not clear, so they wanted to scope the workshop. So my sensing is that for 20AAB is to actually just provide details on what the technical workshop will be, what will it be on. So it will only be on 20AAB on the workshop only, the details of the workshop. Zimbabwe, is that agreeable?
Not yet, Chair. So if I get you right, Chair, you are saying we are now looking into adding further details on what exactly the workshop will be constituted like, and what exactly it will be looking like in terms of the content beyond what has already been agreed to. Because we thought once a workshop has got clear terms of reference, they know what to do, or rather we know what to do in the workshop, because we are guided by terms of reference which would have been agreed upon. And that task has been given to the standing committee. So do you want us now to move into that and do future work here?
Kenya, could you just explain what amendments are you looking at? What are you looking at for the scoping of the workshop which you mentioned, so that it gives clarity to Zimbabwe? Thank you.
Madam Chair, just to clarify, we are not happy with the 20 AAB as drafted. We are looking at amending the text of this decision, so we are not approving that decision as it is. And we are amenable to the range states reconvening and through a drafting group to look at it so that we all accept it, including the issue, the concern we have also in the draft communique. We have concerns there as well. So I think we want indulgence of Zimbabwe for purposes of continuing the dialogue that allow the drafting group to look at this 20 AAB. We are not going into the details of what we are going to do, but the text as it is not acceptable to us.
Okay, we're running out of time, and we are way behind. I just want to move on this topic. So I will form a small drafting group with African range states only, and the Secretariat will meet up with them, and they will have a discussion on 20AA little b only to see if we can come to agreement. Okay, so I will put this item on hold, and I will close this session for lunch. Thank you. Secretariat, you have housekeeping.
Thank you, Chair. I believe the only housekeeping announcement that we have is that the Budget Working Group is meeting in the Snow Leopard Room soon after this session is over, so probably around 12:15. Thank you, Chair, and have a good lunch.